What's up, guys, and welcome back to PAM! I'm Drew,
I'm Jack.
I'm Meredith.
and today we'll be talking about Serengeti National Park.
Located in northern Tanzania, it is home to rhinos, elephants, lions, and more.
Let's get into the history.
The history of Serengeti National Park goes way back, starting with the Maasai people, who were the original inhabitants of the land. They called it endless plains because of the vast grasslands that they had wildlife used for grazing.
In 1892, there was a European explorer named Oscar Baumann who became the very first outsider to enter the Serengeti. He spent 20 days there mapping the region. Eventually, in the 1930s, the British administration that was over the Serengeti established it as a game reserve. It was like the start of all the conservation efforts in that region. All the information we could find about how the Maasai people were relocated, they were relocated to the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, which is outside the Serengeti, which it was originally a part of it, but was separated so that the Maasai people could continue to graze their cattle in that region.
Throughout the 1960s, the Maasai people fought to stay within Serengeti. They fought because their ancestral rights and indigenous rights were being taken away. The Maasai people even said that they would contribute to help sustainability in Serengeti, and they were still met with negativity. The British colonial administration and later international conservation groups became the leading actors in taking wildlife rights in Serengeti rather than focusing on indigenous rights.
The Serengeti was chosen to be a protected area because of the millions of wildebeest that migrate through the plains throughout the year, and this is the Great Migration. The idea of the park is to have a healthy relationship between humans and animals so that humans can enjoy the nature and give tourists the opportunity to learn about that. But as we'll get into, relationship between humans and animals is becoming unequal as humans are beginning to take advantage of the animals and disrupt their way of life.
Now, to keep things fun, we'll do some trivia.
After each section, we're going to give you one question to answer.
This is our first trivia question. What famous annual natural event led to the Serengeti being declared a protected area? You have 15 seconds. If you said the Great Wildebeest Migration, you are correct.
Serengeti National Park is an IUCN Category
2.
It's a Category
2
2 because it protects a large natural area and conserves the entire ecological process.
The management prioritizes biodiversity and natural areas.
A Category 2 permits visitation and recreation as long as it doesn't hurt the integrity of the biodiversity of the park.
What's the main difference between an IUCN Category 1 and an IUCN Category 2? The main difference is that in IUCN 1, there's no human access allowed. In IUCN 2, humans are allowed.
There are many different threats that are harmful to Serengeti National Park, but today we're going to be focusing in on 3. That is going to be over-tourism, poaching, and water scarcity. Our focal threat, however, is over-tourism and tourism pressure. During July and August, Serengeti gets flooded with tourists from all over the world. Hundreds of thousands of people come to see the Great Migration of the wildebeest and other animals that travel through Serengeti.
Tourism companies in that area promote a once-in-a-lifetime experience, sightseeing, but they should be focusing on teaching and enforcing proper behavior around these animals.
When these tour guides are doing anything to get close to the animals in the migration, it's forcing these animals to move farther off of their normal route, which separates calves from their mothers. It forces animals to go near the Mara River, where there's lots of crocodiles that put them in danger, and also forces them to take routes where there may be cliffs or other things that can harm them or kill the animals. The over-tourism of Serengeti also causes a lot of side effects, which include preventing movement for the animals, habituation to humans from the animals, pollution from infrastructure development, pressure on natural resources, and wildlife behavior changes, just to name a few.
Some underlying causes of over-tourism in the Serengeti are social media glamorizing everything and how it looks better than it is, false experiences, economic dependence on tourism, weak regulation, and inadequate visitor education.
How far did the wildebeest travel on the Great Migration trip? And the answer is 800 to 1,200 miles. Hope you got it right.
Another direct threat in Serengeti is poaching. Many people hunt elephants, rhinos, and many other animals for ivory, meat, and other resources. There are government regulations and grassroots movements to help prevent this, however, it still happens.
Around 52,000 to 60,000 hunters still live within the 45 kilometers of the greater Serengeti ecosystem. Some reasons people will hunt is the education cost or cultural values, crop losses, opposition to authorities, maybe even thrill seeking. Many poachers actually use silent wire snares at night to avoid getting caught by night patrol ranger groups. Say a man was found with elephant tusks and hunting rifles in Africa in the back of his car. What was his punishment? If you said 30 years prison sentence, you would be correct.
Now we're going to be talking about the threat of water scarcity in Serengeti National Park. The Mara River is the only water source throughout the dry season in the Serengeti. It's drying up, and this is reducing vegetation growth. So when the Great Migration happens, all of these animals are having a lack of food and water supply.
Along with this, the growing human population increases water use, which depletes the water amount. Climate change also has a factor in this. This disrupts the fragile climate of Serengeti. Next trivia question. Approximately how many crocodiles live in the Mara River? If you said over 3,000, you would be right.
So now, after that trivia, we are going to talk about our 3 key principles. Our first key principle, number 2, threats to PAs are inevitable. We related to how strong the anti-poaching measures are, but poaching still remains a threat, especially for high-value animals like elephants and rhinos. This key principle shows how threats persist even under protection.
The next principle we want to talk about is number 9, which is effective community education will help to reduce threats to protected areas. As we talked about, the Serengeti is surrounded by villages that depend heavily on natural resources. And without understanding the park's ecological importance, many of these local people see wildlife as a competition instead of just an asset to the park. A lot of the poaching that goes on is linked to poverty and lack of awareness because these people need the meat that they're gaining to survive. When communities are educated about the long-term benefits of conservation and gain access to alternate livelihoods and ways of providing for their families, illegal hunting will decrease.
Our last key principle is number 11. A systemic assessment of human-caused threats may aid effective management. A systemic assessment helps park managers map where these threats are most intense and determine which parts are urgent to address. Having a clear record of human-caused threats strengthens policy and funding principles. For example, data on poaching trends or migration disruption can justify increased funding for rangers or community livelihood programs.
Why is a systematic assessment of human-caused threats important for park management? Well, if you answered that it helps managers identify where threats are strongest, prioritize action, and justify funding for protection and community programs, you are correct.
Last section!
For our last section, we're going to be talking about managing threats at the Serengeti.
The management planning tool that is being used by Serengeti National Park is
C,
otherwise known as Limits of Acceptable Change. The Serengeti does zoning of high use, low use, and wilderness areas, and this is their way of managing the acceptable levels of change or impacts in different zones. They also limit vehicles at river crossings and set buffer distances as ways of taking management actions, trying to keep the impacts within the acceptable limits.
Enforcement can be inconsistent. especially in high-demand tourism zones. Visitor pressures continue to rise, sometimes pushing against the defined acceptable limits. Zoning and limits have helped reduce habitat degradation and wildlife disturbance in sensitive areas.
All right, this is our last trivia question. You spent only about 10 minutes with us, but we spent about 3 hours together. And so we are extremely excited for you to answer this final trivia question. Which management planning tool does the Serengeti National Park use to control tourism impacts and maintain ecological balance? If you said B, limits of acceptable change, LAC, you would be right.
Thank you.